guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah if you're new here, and I'm a writer currently working on my first book. It is in the fantasy romance genre. I just finished draft 2, and this video is going to be me prepping for draft 3. So when working on draft 3 of this project, I'll be breaking it into 3 pieces, 2 preparatory pieces, and then the actual giant revision that will be draft 3. So the first preparatory step that I have in stored is that when I was working on draft 2 of the project, I discussed in previous videos how I had a spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, I had chapter number, I had a summary of the chapter, I had word count, and then if necessary, I had notes. Some of these were continuity notes. Other things were more plot related and plot shifts I wanted to pay attention to. With the first step of draft 3, I want this book to be in as good of order as I can get it in terms of plot and organization. So I'm going through each note I left for each chapter in this spreadsheet and correcting it as the first step. So step 1 of draft 3 is done. I went through all of the notes and I fully incorporated them into my story. And now it is time for step 2, which you will see me prepping for, because I went back and forth a lot on how I was going to approach draft 3. So you guys saw me prepping for this step 2. My main dilemma was, do I just sit with it and go chapter by chapter and change everything and make it a giant transformative draft? In that I'm looking at characterization, dialogue, plot progression, every single little word, every single little sentence. And I decided that that was way too much for me to do all at once and that I need to do it in phases. So here is my book journal. And I decided that I'm going to be focusing only on the plot of the book. I'm going to be looking for consistency. I'm going to be looking for organization, and that the plot progression makes logical sense. I'm going to be looking at pacing. I'm going to be looking at where the inciting incident in the story is and if I need to push it back or if I need to push it forward. I'm looking at the climax of story and making sure that there's proper payoff at that point in the story. I consider this all under the umbrella of plot, so I will also be looking at excessive content. I don't know if I already mentioned, but I really want to cut down my word count by 10k words. So we will see how much of that I can get done in this plot reading of the draft. And then the final element that I want to pay close attention to is the romance plot of this story. I've never read it all the way through. I have never read any of this book all the way through, so I need to see what that romance is looking like and if it makes sense and if it doesn't and how I want to fix it. So this is going to be what you're seeing me do in preparation for the next stage of draft 3. So I just inserted the clips of me reading this book for the first time. It was crazy. It was yesterday night, and I went to bed feeling really great about it. There were a couple things I wanted to mention that I noticed. One, I was planning on doing the entire read through of this by May 12th. It is now May 6th. So my plan was to read this book for 7 hours and have the full read through be done. So I read for an hour and a half and I only got 33 pages deep. And according to my calculations, by that pace, I would have to spend 17 hours reading this book. That is not what I wanted. So I'm going to have to see how much I can read this week and actually get done by the 12th. I'm going to try to read 2 hours a day now and see where that puts me. Another thing that I wanted to pay attention to during this first sit down with my book was how many words I ended up deleting. This number I'm about to tell you is different than in the last video of me finishing draft 2, because between draft 2 and draft 3, I did that step of incorporating my notes, which added some words to the book word count. So my book before this read through stood at 106,026 words. And after reading 33 pages of the book, it was at 105,212. So I'm already happy. I'm already close to 1,000 words down, 9,000 more to go. But I'm a bit optimistic that I was already able to cut so much when there's still so much of this book left to read. So I'm happy about that. The final thing that I noticed in this sit down with my book that I really wanted to talk about was my total freak out when it came to my inciting incident. My inciting incident on my double-spaced manuscript is at page 73. That's pretty deep into the book. Inciting incidents typically are very close to the beginning of the book, depending on the book, like 10 to 15% of the way into the story. And I was very nervous at how far back it was. So when I was doing this read through, I was very aware of the inciting incident, and I realized that there's this whole section at the beginning of the book that I can simply take out, delete, throw away. And then I had a total freak out because I spent a lot of time on those scenes, and I knew that if it was for the benefit of the story, then yes, I need to take those scenes out and just readjust the chapter before those scenes and the chapter after so that everything was still going smoothly and still read with flow. Then I realized I am not about to delete 25 pages of writing on a whim reading this book. So I am doing what I always do, which is giving a task I don't want to focus on now to future me. But in this case, I'm going to be giving it to my future beta readers, because after draft 3, I will be giving my project to start to 2 beta readers. And I will ask them what they think. Is the inciting incident too far? Were those scenes interesting? Were they interesting enough or necessary enough to keep? Do you think I should just take them out? And I'm going to let that feedback rest on their shoulders for now. I don't want to do anything drastic, especially with how much I want to cut words down. That little word count demon is in my head telling me to just cut it, and I don't want to listen to her until I get some other feedback first. So that is my update on the state of things, and I'm now going to work on the book, I don't know, for about 5 days, and then I'll check in with you again and let you know how deep I am in the book, how many words I've cut, and so on. So I will see you then. Friday, and I'll be giving you an update of everything I've gotten done to this point. I'm really excited for this update because this is my last sesh before I give it, and I'm planning on really going all in. I'm really trying to dig in for 3 hours, so hopefully I'll have a lot to show for it. Hey guys, so it is not Friday anymore, so I figured I'll just give you a today update, and today is Thursday of the following week. So I've done several reading sessions, I've done several hours of correcting the notes that I've written as I go, and with word count, I started this project at 106,026 words, and as you already know, I want to cut that down. So after all these reading sessions, I am down almost 5,000 words, which is super cool. I'm now at 101,282. So I'm super pleased about that. And then in terms of page count, I am at page 254 of 381 pages. So I have about 130 pages left to read, and I'm very excited about that. I'm already over halfway done, so yay. And the last thing I wanted to update about this reading process was just thinking about all the highs and the lows that comes with writing a book and all of the excitement and then the doubt that you face when you open your manuscript, because when I started reading up to chapter 10, I was so thrilled about this project, and then I hit a rough spot of the book in terms of prose, and it really got me down, and I just thought this book is never getting published. And then you reopen it and you keep reading and you hit another good part of the book and you realize it is simply what it means to write a book. Your book is constantly evolving with every draft you're doing, and you're working at it slowly, but you are improving. And it's just a really healthy reminder that the pitfalls are not permanent and you can't let them get you down, because this is the dream, right? So that's my update for the prepping stage of draft 3. I would say we're going at a very positive start, a little slower than I want to, but I'm always a little bit slower than I want to. I think I never, ever, ever actually hit a deadline I set. However, setting deadlines keeps me motivated to try to hit them. So overall, I think I'm finishing things quicker than I would without even setting a deadline. In other news, I am currently in my Austen era. I just read Pride and Prejudice for the first time. Isn't that crazy? Probably should have read this a long time ago, but wow. And this threw me for a loop because I read this book. It was the 20th anniversary for the 2005 movie with Keira Knightley, and I went to see it in theaters, and then I totally fell into this rabbit hole. I watched Fire Island, which is another kind of take on the book, a modern take on the book. It's not an adaptation, but it has elements of the book in there. And then I started watching the BBC series that was made in the 90s. So I'm totally on my Jane Austen kick. I'm now reading Persuasion, which I've really been loving. It's so different than Pride and Prejudice, but it's really quiet in a very enjoyable way. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've been loving it. So if you guys have read Austen or have a favorite Austen book, let me know, because I want to know which one I should read after this. And with that, I think this video is going to be done. So thank you guys so much for watching me start draft 3. It's been really exciting to be in this stage, and I can't wait to see what's coming up next. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!